The massacre in the mosque. A Jewish gunman slaughters dozens of West Bank Arabs, setting off bloody riots throughout Israel's occupied territories.
And on the Olympic ice in Norway, tears for Tanya while Nancy goes for the gold.
This is the CBS Evening News. With Dan Rather in New York and Connie Chung at the Winter Olympics in Norway.
Good evening. It was before dawn. Hundreds of Palestinians were packed inside a mosque on the West Bank, kneeling in prayer. Without warning, a Jewish immigrant from the United States opened fire with an automatic rifle, apparently aiming to derail the Mideast peace process. CBS News correspondent Bob Simon begins our coverage of this bloody day in the West Bank city of Hebron.
When the killing stopped, the chaos began. The dead and the wounded kept coming and kept coming, to clinics in Hebron, to hospitals in Jerusalem. There were bodies everywhere. Families rushed down corridors to claim the corpses of their loved ones. On every bed not taken by a casualty, someone was giving blood. The massacre in the mosque claimed 53 lives and wounded close to 200, according to Israeli television. The mayor of Hebron and countless other Palestinians wanted to know, where was the army?
The soldiers ran away outside, and they left him shooting.
The killer was 37-year-old Baruch Goldstein, filmed here at a right-wing demonstration 3 months ago. The Brooklyn-born doctor entered the mosque in an army uniform and opened fire. 10 minutes later, police say, he was beaten to death. The government called for calm and sent in reinforcements. It slapped a curfew on Hebron, closed off the Gaza Strip, and beefed up forces in Jerusalem. But the rage rolled on. In Hebron, kids picked up rocks and faced off against phalanxes of Israeli soldiers. The massacre didn't stop the killings. Another 12 Palestinians died before the day was done. In Jerusalem, when Friday prayer stopped on the Temple Mount, the rioting began. Palestinians trashed a police office, burned the uniforms, and continued fighting under thickening clouds of tear gas. In Gaza, Palestinians attacked soldiers, soldiers opened fire, Palestinians were buried. Palestinian leaders called for unprecedented measures urgently, international protection for their people, the disarming of the settlers. At an emergency cabinet meeting, Prime Minister Rabin decided to restrict the movements of settlers near Hebron. The peace process, he said, lives on.
This deranged action of the lunatic individual will not prevent the reconciliation between the citizens of the State of Israel and the Palestinian people.
The most important question may be whether Rabin is now ready to move against the extreme settlers with the same force he used against Palestinians when the Intifada began 6 years ago. Bob Simon, CBS News, on the West Bank.
President Clinton today denounced the massacre and moved quickly to try to turn a catastrophe into a catalyst for peace. That part of the story now from correspondent Rita Braver at the White House. Rita?
Dan, in an effort to save the Middle East peace process, the White House has invited all Israeli and PLO negotiators to come to Washington to finish the work needed to carry out their accord. Both sides have accepted.
And the president called a news conference just to condemn the attack.
I am outraged and saddened that such a gross act of murder could be perpetrated. I also call on all the parties to exercise maximum restraint in what we all understand is a terribly emotional situation.
Israel's ambassador to the U.S. underscored the need to move quickly on working out details for Israeli withdrawal from the West Bank and Gaza.
This is fragile, this is precarious, this is exposed to attacks, and while one needs to be thorough in making arrangements that we'll all have to live with for years, swiftness is of the essence.
But the PLO's chief Washington representative said today's attack raises the thorny question of what's to become of Israeli settlers in the occupied territories.
What we want from Israel is to disarm the settlers, put the settlement issue on the agenda, and from the international community to see how we can provide more protection for the Palestinians.
Now, in the past, the administration has kept a certain distance from the day-to-day negotiations, but by bringing the talks here, the president is putting his own prestige on the line, Dan.
Rita Braber at the White House. Thanks. Now, more about the American-born and educated gunman in today's murders. People who know him say he was dead set against the Israeli PLO peace process, filled with hate for Arabs and out for revenge. Correspondent Richard Threlkeld looks at the man behind the massacre in the mosque.
Dr. Baruch Goldstein was born and raised in this Brooklyn, New York neighborhood. He was very religious, with a wife and 4 kids and a passion for Israel.
A passionate Zionist, and he had a passionate love of Jews.
He went to college and medical school here at Yeshiva University in New York. 11 years ago, he emigrated to Israel. We may never know what turned Baruch Goldstein, a doctor, a healer, into a mass murderer, but there are some clues. Perhaps it was the assassination in 1990 of Rabbi Meir Kahane, who preached violence against Arabs. Goldstein was a disciple of Kahane's. Perhaps as an emergency doctor, it was all the Israeli settlers and soldiers he treated after they'd been hurt in recent clashes with Palestinians. He hated Palestinians with a passion.
He was always there for anybody that was sick. Okay, he refused to treat Arabs. He didn't hurt them, but he didn't want to treat them because he said, I didn't come to Israel to treat my enemies.
Most likely it was this incident. The Palestinian terrorist machine-gunned a bus near Hebron last December, killing a settler and his son. They were close friends of Goldstein's, and after that, a friend said, he became convinced the only answer to terror is more terror. Today in his old Brooklyn neighborhood, they were celebrating Purim, the deliverance of the Jews from an ancient massacre. The day Dr. Baruch Goldstein apparently chose to commit a massacre of his own. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, New York.
The PLO is asking for an urgent meeting of the United Nations Security Council to condemn the massacre at the mosque. Members of the council have been meeting in private, considering that PLO request.
Straight ahead on the CBS Evening News from Norway and New York. More trouble for Tanya and Nancy Kerrigan's quest for Olympic gold.
Plus, Eye on America tonight, police under fire, cracks in the thin blue line.
You're working hard to reach your dreams, saving what you can each day. Be smart about how you do it, make sure you save the safest way. Buy bonds, U.S. savings bonds. Guaranteed returns mean you can't go wrong. They're just as safe as a Monday is long. So reach for all your dreams, make them happen starting right now. You can reach all your dreams, it's not hard when you know how. Buy bonds, U.S. savings bonds. Buy bonds, U.S. savings bonds. Buy bonds, U.S. savings bonds. Buy bonds.
Here at the Northern Lights Hall in Norway tonight, the world's best figure skaters had their final competition for the gold. And it was a photo finish. There was Nancy Kerrigan and a comeback kid from Ukraine, and Tanya Harding twice. There were spills and bizarre developments, a world-class event that actually exceeded its billing. Correspondent John Blackstone has the story.
Tanya Harding's long, strange Olympic quest got even stranger tonight, just as it was reaching its conclusion.
Representing the United States of America, Tanya Harding.
She almost didn't make it onto the ice. As Harding was supposed to begin skating, she was struggling backstage, adjusting her skate laces. And the drama didn't end there. She started skating, then burst into tears when she missed her first jump. As the Olympic event was thrown into pause, Harding complained to the judges that something was wrong with her skates. It seemed an almost identical replay of a Harding performance in October last year at the Skate America competition.
He's moving everywhere.
In that case, she was allowed to fix the problem and skate again, much as Olympic officials allowed tonight. When Harding reappeared, she seemed composed and skated a program the judges ranked as respectable, with scores of 5.5 to 5.7 for technical, 5.3 to 5.6 for artistic merit. That left Harding well behind the leaders.
I feel great. I went out there and I did the best I could.
We were really pleased with Tanya. Her skate lace broke. They laced it up. They put a new one in. It was way too short.
But Harding didn't provide the only suspense today. Oksana Bayul of Ukraine left her practice early, apparently in pain. Her tears outside the arena suggested she might have to drop out. Just an hour before the event began, she decided to skate. Nancy Kerrigan skated just before Bayul tonight and maintained her medal-winning form, thrilling family and friends listening to the action back home. But Bayul's performance was almost flawless, too. Kerrigan earned scores of 5.8 for technical, 5.8 for artistic. Bayul scored 5.7 for technical, 5.9 for artistic. And that score was enough to give the Ukrainian the gold medal. Kerrigan had to settle for silver.
Like I said, I think I skated great, and I was smiling, I was happy, I was enjoying myself, I had fun.
This long-running figure skating soap opera with so many twists and turns kept up the suspense right to the close tonight. The only thing it lacked was the perfect happy ending for Nancy Kerrigan. John Blackstone, CBS News, Lillehammer.
So the wildest figure skating competition in Olympic history is finally over. Meanwhile, the Russians and the Norwegians are battling for top honors in the medal competition here in Norway. That story later in the broadcast. Dan?
Connie, you were present for all the action there at the figure skating arena today. What were your impressions?
Well, it was a breathtaking evening, one unexpected moment after the next. Nancy Kerrigan actually tied with the gold medalist Oksana Bayul of Ukraine. It was a German judge who broke the tie. As for Tanya Harding, this is the story of her life. Nothing ever goes right. There was just this high drama, and when she delayed getting on the ice, she had 30 seconds left before she would be disqualified. Then when she stopped skating and went up to the judges, the audience was aghast. No one knew what the problem was. She has abruptly stopped skating in 4 previous competitions. So obviously this is nothing new to her. So a great deal of triumph for Nancy Kerrigan, and Dan, Tanya Harding goes back to Portland to who knows what.
Thanks, Connie. Back home with sports news about America's pastime and some good news about 2 old favorites. The Veterans Committee today elected Leo DeRocher and Phil Rizzuto to baseball's Hall of Fame. Leo the Lip managed 4 teams, including the famous pennant-winning New York Giants in 1951. DeRocher died in 1991. Phil Rizzuto, known around New York as the Scooter, played shortstop for the great Yankee teams of the 40s and 50s. He was, among other things, a tremendous bunter. At age 76, Rizzuto was elected after 26 years of eligibility. Stay here with us now for more CBS Evening News, including the ouster of an enemy spy master working just footsteps from America's center of power.
When you're down and troubled and you need a helping hand, and nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night.
Army Emergency Relief, the Navy Relief Society, and the Air Force Aid Society. If you've got an emergency, you've got a friend.
You've got a friend. Ain't it good to know you've got a friend?
Planning a PCS move? You know, you have to pay for excess weight. Sometimes we become attached to things that might be better left behind. So if you're stuck on taking a lot of extra things with you, think again. It might cost you some bucks.
It's a tactic reminiscent of the Cold War days, 4 days after the arrest of an allegedly highly successful and deadly Russian mole inside the CIA. The United States tonight retaliated by sending a top Russian diplomat packing. National Security Correspondent David Martin reports.
The United States of America has declared a counselor in the Russian embassy to be persona non grata.
He has 7 days to quit his job at the Russian embassy. He is Alexander Lysenko, name only.
The individual in question is the chief Russian intelligence official here in Washington. Clearly, the United States believes that this individual is in a position to be responsible for the activities associated with the Ames espionage case.
The damage allegedly done by Aldrich Ames and his wife cannot be undone. Expelling Lysenko is a largely symbolic act.
If the charges are true, the Ames couple caused significant damage to our national security and betrayed their country. This is a serious case, and we've made that crystal clear to the Russian government.
Russian diplomats who spent much of the day coming and going from the State Department had refused to withdraw Lysenko voluntarily, and the Russian embassy immediately protested his expulsion. U.S. officials expect the Russians to retaliate by expelling the chief CIA officer at the U.S. embassy in Moscow. Other Russian intelligence officers, in addition to Lysenko, would have been involved in handling a spy as important as Ames. And the fact that they're not being expelled as well suggests the FBI does not yet know who they are. Dan?
David Martin live at the Pentagon. Thanks. In Bosnia, an uneasy ceasefire between Muslim-led government forces and the Croats is in place tonight as those two sides get ready to talk peace in Washington this weekend. Correspondent Alan Pirzey has the story from the central Bosnian town of Vitez.
The ceasefire came into effect at noon local time, and the Croat troops in the trenches said they would respect it. They blamed their Muslim foes for dozens of ceasefire violations recorded in the first few hours. Homemade hand grenades sat ready, but less lethal weapons were the order of the day. The front lines command a field of fire that traps several thousand Muslims in a few square miles. In the town of Vitez, a British light tank was positioned between Croat and Muslim front lines as a first step towards a wider separation. But Croat troops didn't seem to have much faith in the tank's ability to suppress snipers. A heavier concentration of firepower moved into the besieged Muslim enclave of Tuzla today. Leopard tanks will be used to enforce a UN plan to open the airport there. UN troops are also supposed to man joint checkpoints with local forces as part of the ceasefire plan. The UN needs more troops to do the job properly, but might not get them.
And it's my final fallback option. I've got to try and do it with what I've got. But we'll make it work.
The UN had hoped the momentum of the Sarajevo ceasefire would make this effort easier, but the reality was perhaps best summed up by the commanders of the two warring factions, who told the United Nations they were cautiously pessimistic. Alan Pirzey, CBS News, Vitez.
Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin hopped across the moon's surface in 1969. They wore lunar boots which featured a new material for improved cushioning, ventilation, and safety. This same material eventually found its way onto basketball courts here on Earth. It's now used in the most popular athletic shoes, designed for improved shock absorption and reduced foot fatigue. Another device developed for astronaut and fighter pilot safety is the Cool Suit. This system, which pumps a cool liquid through tubes in a tight-fitting suit and helmet liner, is effective in eliminating 40 to 60% of stored body heat. This same technology is now used by race car drivers around the world, with temperatures reaching an amazing 215 degrees inside car cockpits. The Cool Suits are protecting drivers from fatigue, dehydration, and total collapse. Improved footwear and Cool Suits. Space technology at work here on Earth.
A helmet can take a lot more abuse than you can. So use your head and wear your helmet.
A Los Angeles police officer will be laid to rest Monday. A 45-year-old rookie killed in the line of duty just 4 days after she graduated from the academy. In the combat against crime in this country, police are a thin, vulnerable front line, and all too often it costs them their lives. Anthony Mason reports tonight's Eye on America.
One cold week this February, the police marched 3 times in New England. In one cold week, they buried 3 officers. In Boston, Wayne Anderson was shot dead trying to stop a man going the wrong way down a one-way street.
A lot of us are scared now, you know. It's crazy out here. I don't understand what's going on.
In Providence, Stephen Shaw was shot by a burglary suspect.
Hey, back up! Get out of the way!
The first officer to be killed in the line of duty in Providence in 65 years. In tiny Paxton, Massachusetts, Chief Robert Mortell was shot dead while chasing 3 robbery suspects through the woods. Paxton's 4-man police force needed help carrying the casket of their slain chief.
We're talking about black on black, black on white, white on white, white on black. We are talking about human beings acting like they don't have any sense at all.
The police, can I talk to you for a minute?
On the streets in Boston, they'll tell you the death of a fellow officer is like a death in the family.
You keep driving by where they got killed. Think about how it happened, how it wouldn't have happened to me, how it would have happened to me.
Veteran patrolman Wayne Anderson was killed outside his own home. He was off duty, leaving his house on an errand. His fiancée ran to him and saw Anderson's gun on the ground.
So I pointed the gun at everybody and I said, just get back because I want to know who did it. I said, if you didn't do it, you better lay down on the ground because I'm ready to shoot.
In the past decade, the number of cops murdered on the job each year has actually declined slightly. Bulletproof vests have helped police beat the odds, even as the homicide rate in America has soared.
It's just earth-shattering. You're never the same. You're never the same.
Philadelphia patrolman Buddy Murphy almost joined the list this month when he went up to question the driver of a parked car. He remembers the rest, he says, in slow motion.
I see this shift in the movement of the body, and I see the arm tilt. Then I looked right down the barrel of the gun, and then I said, oh, shit. And I reached like this, and that's when I turned, and that's when I got hit in the neck.
The bullet went in above his bulletproof vest and out his back. He was sure he was dead.
It changes my outlook on life. You know, I've been there and I'm back. You know, I've been to my own funeral.
They marched 3 times in New England this month and wondered what was happening.
It seems the kids that are growing up today, they not only don't respect us, they don't respect themselves. And I don't think they understand that once somebody's dead, they're dead, they're gone, they don't come back.
In one cold week, they buried 3 colleagues. The name of every fallen officer in the country is now recorded on a marble wall in Washington, D.C. And soon the names of 3 New England officers will be etched in stone. In Philadelphia, I'm Anthony Mason for Eye on America.
Space travel is a privilege for military members and their families. But to use it properly, it helps to know how it works. You must be on leave when you walk into the AMC terminal to sign up for Space A. Be ready to present your leave authorization, ID, and passport and visa if required. And be prepared to travel in uniform. Since AMC can't guarantee you a seat, it helps to be flexible. One way to do that is to carry traveler's checks in case you have to fly back commercially. And remember, you can register for travel up to 5 different countries, just in case you can't get your first choice. Using Space A travel can get you to many exciting places. So learn the rules and you'll have a smoother trip. For more information, see your AMC passenger representative.
When children are little, it's easy to know what they need. Just get within 6 feet of a loaded diaper, you can figure it out fast. Now, parenting gets a little tougher when your kids get older. They're exposed to so much more. But it's just as important. So keep your eye on things, from who their friends are to what they're doing. And even though your responsibility gets bigger as your kids do, look at it this way. At least they're potty trained.
Now live from the Northern Lights Hall in Hamar, Norway. Well, there's no end to the twists and turns and the surprises at these Olympic Games, and here's one more. Guess what one of the biggest rivalries is of all turning out to be? Here's correspondent Mark Phillips.
No one will be shocked to learn that despite all the talk of the glory of sport, national rivalries are still a big deal here. You may be shocked, however, to learn which rivalries. Going into the final weekend, the unlikely race for medal bragging rights is between the renowned athletic powerhouse of Norway and the supposedly collapsed superpower of Russia. The Norwegians, with all that healthy living and all that snow, might be expected to have their moments. Yet all this winning seems to run against their kindly nature. So much so that good King Harold at one point suggested they stop being so selfish and give somebody else a chance. But out of the primeval northern woods, an old bear has emerged. The Russians were supposed to be broke, demoralized, and with more mundane concerns than these. Even they sometimes seem shocked by their success.
When you have problems with food, when you have nothing to eat, maybe sport isn't the most important thing in your life.
The Russians, of course, are coming out in so many ways these days, negotiating ceasefires in Bosnia, running spies in the CIA. Maybe it's only natural that they get up to their old tricks at the Olympics, too. Or maybe the success here will be seen as a happy diversion from the mess at home.
I'm afraid to hope, but I hope
that this will serve as inspiration.
Yeah, precisely.
The Russians may be reassuming their mantle on the world stage, athletic and otherwise, but they have a way to go yet. They're having to witness all the success from afar. Not too many can afford the prices to come here and enjoy it. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Lillehammer.
And that's our news. Stay with this CBS station for continuing coverage of the Winter Olympics. Coming up tonight, the finals in ladies figure skating, plus Tommy Moe's try for another Olympic medal. The action begins at 8, 7 Central Time. Dan?
Rob Schieffer will have the news between the Olympic Games tomorrow evening. Connie and I will see you again Monday. Thanks for choosing CBS. Good night, everyone, and good night, Connie.
Good night, Dan. Have a great weekend, everyone.
This is CBS.